Fox 5 and Hot 97 present Street Soldiers with Lisa Evers.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Teens Out of Control. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. From fights in malls to broad daylight shootings, some teens are getting attention for all the wrong reasons. They're a small percentage of all youth, but there are warning signs that troublemakers are starting younger and becoming more violent. Teens fighting and brawling in shopping areas has become such a concern. Some malls, chain stores, and even fast food restaurants are banning underage teens unless they're accompanied by an adult. Student leader Jason Bostic says the overarching theme behind the chaos and unrest is poverty.
We have to think about the things that these people are going through, the neglect that fell them in school, the neglect that fell them from policing. There's a bunch of systems that fell individuals before the system catch them.
The Council on Criminal Justice says during a 6-year study ending in 2022, murders by teens jumped by 65%. The number of teens using guns rose by 21%. The NYPD says the average age of the trigger pullers keeps dropping and is now under 19 for the first time. The shocking surveillance video of a broad daylight shooting shows bullets spraying a playground and being fired over the heads of a family. It's from a 73-count murder and shooting indictment of 20 alleged gang members. 13 were under 17, and 10 are already behind bars on other cases.
To see it will show you what they go through as they're trying to live their everyday lives. And it must stop. Our youth must stop choosing guns and gangs.
New York City Probation Commissioner Juanita Holmes says there's a small percentage of teens arrested and rearrested who are behind most of the disorderly conduct and crime.
They're responsible for the bulk of the arrest. So it's recidivism, the same way it's driving New York City Police Department. Naturally, those numbers are applicable to probation.
Most parents and leaders agree youth programs can be a big positive influence. New York City Assistant Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Mona Suazo, says there are many more available than people realize, all listed on nyc.gov/DYCD. For example,
we have the Saturday Night Lights. This is a citywide program. It's a partnership to keep the gyms open on Saturday nights. This is when young people may be more susceptible to get into trouble.
Let's take this to our panel and find out what they have to say. Joining me is Jason Bostic. He's a Columbia University undergrad. He's a program coordinator with the Center for Justice, and he does a lot of training work with youth that are still involved with the streets. Jason, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Also with us is Assistant Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Mona Suazo. She is here with us to talk about the programs, the youth, what's going on from her perspective and citywide picture. Mona, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Also with us is Juanita Holmes. She's the Commissioner for the New York City Department of Probation. Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Lisa.
We really appreciate it. Jason, I want to start with you on this because there's some people that say, you know, if you're banning all teens unless there's an adult with them. What's your take when you heard about those signs going up and those rules going into effect at these businesses?
I think this is an example of institutional avoidance. There are a bunch of fast food restaurants and stores spawning in every vacant street throughout the city, especially in Black and brown neighborhoods. Because of gentrification, all these new restaurants inside of these Black communities, the price is too high on the food. So they're going to places like McDonald's where the food is affordable, and it's putting a burden on the parents who has to work probably 1, 2, 3 jobs in order to pay the prices of rent now with the influctuation of rent because of gentrification. So it's easy to point out children and the youth perspective for doing all these things, but when they have nowhere else to go in a newly gentrified neighborhood, what else do you want them to do?
Assistant Deputy Mayor Mona Suazo, your focus is public safety. What's your view on this?
So the overall crime has continued to go down under Mayor Adams' administration. And even though the shootings and the violence crimes numbers have went down, but the involvement of youth has gone up in those particular areas. And what the city is doing is an investment. We're doing an investment in the youth. That's through initiatives, programs, after school, opening gyms on Saturdays with Saturday night lights to make sure that they have sports and a place to go and hang out and connect with other players, with having food, uniforms, connecting even with police officers. So the goal is to create a safe, healthy environment for them to explore other things than gathering at malls and locations that can turn into violence eruption.
Are there enough of those programs, especially for the after school hours?
There are a lot of programs. Saturday Night Light is a program. Summer Rising, that is throughout the summer from K to 8th grade. There are plenty of programs, DYCD, and we make it very easy for the parents. You go on the DYCD website. There is one page, one portal. They can sign up for all the programs under DYCD.
Probation Commissioner Juanita Holmes, what are you seeing with the youth that come through your system?
What I'm seeing is an increase in the youth coming through our system, unfortunately. And as a result of such, we are really taking a look and analyzing a lot of programs. A lot of the programs here in DOP, I've been here for 2 years, have been pretty much the same programs perpetuated throughout over a decade. With the Department of Probation, we want to make it more meaningful employment and giving them career opportunities. But when we're speaking about the juvenile population and you're looking at raise the age, that really increased our juvenile population 100%. And as a result of such, now we have more juveniles than we've had before. And so, as a result of such, how do we engage them and keep them interested? So, we're looking at a lot of them that attend the after school programs. We have mentorship programs that are part of DOE's curriculum, actually, such as Girl Talk and Blue Chips, which we are also equally engaged in throughout the day. But I think it's more important. The most important thing is identifying the times that we need these various programs. Assistant DM Mona, as she spoke to, I'm formerly NYPD too, so I know what's out there as far as the programs for the young people. Even simply walking into a precinct, we have explorers, cadets. The summer we have all the summer youth, work that's there for our young people. We're beginning to sign them up now. There's no reason why all of my young people on probation, with the exception of the 13-year-olds, should not be employed this summer.
There's much more to come. Stay with us.
Juanita, you're talking about the programs themselves and some of the people that work, the community leaders that I've talked with, and some of the PAL leaders where they're trying to find things to engage the teens, because it's very different than an 8 or 9-year-old to care, 10-year-old even, to keep them busy. They're doing podcasts, they're doing media things, they're doing things involving music to get them involved. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's fabulous. We actually involved and we're engaging them in AI. So we're recently partnered with Google, which is great. Everyone has an interest in virtual reality. Also, it's going to allow them to be able to get a certification in AI, right? A lot of young people, unfortunately, in some of our underserved communities, a lot of them do have that schooling where they can go to college for computer science. But those that don't have that opportunity, you want them still to have some familiarity with what's now and prevalent in the computer world.
Jason, why is this happening? Is this happening more now though? Do you think these these groups that are getting into trouble together, in some places they're gangs and called gangs or crews? What do you think what can you tell us about that from what you hear on the streets?
Well, I want to first be frank. Commissioner Holmes said that if there's programs and all you gotta do is walk into the precinct, I don't think no young kid from the inner community is just gonna walk into the side of a precinct, especially how over policed their neighborhood is. If the neighborhood is over policed and you don't trust police officers, it makes you feel like you can't trust no system. You can't trust the school system. You can't trust the people that run and make the laws and policies. So the first thing I hope we understand is why are droves of young people going to parks, going to restaurants. There are programs in New York City. Yes, I do agree with that. But there's not a lot of programs in neighborhoods where it's needed the most. I think the programs that are not engaging enough also. Commissioner Holmes named a lot of different programs and it is great, but I never heard of it. All right. And I'm walking the streets, I'm learning, I'm going into different places, different spaces. So if I haven't heard of them, what about the youth that's in the community, that's disconnected, that's on social media, digesting a bunch of negative things? They're not looking at things that's for betterment. They're not looking at things, especially if they never learned about it. I think we have to go out into the community and we got to figure out ways how we could keep the youth engaged. How can we connect with them with certain things without criminalizing them, without making them feel alienated, make them feel accepted, especially when they don't trust institutions. I agree. If we could get the youth to trust institutions, if we could find a way to bridge that gap between the police officers, between government, then we could see some change inside our community.
I wanted to respond to Jason. So when I spoke about the precinct, I didn't mean just walk into the precinct. I'm a chief of police for 37 years in New York City Police Department. I created two tremendous mentorship programs. Why? Because the young people meant that to me, right? I grew up in the city. I wanted them to be exposed to the same opportunities I was exposed to. So no, you're absolutely right. They're not just walking in. I had to go out and get me some young people, and we managed to do that, and they're thriving to this day, right? So I agree, marketing we can do a lot better at, but I know that's something on the top of the assistant deputy mayor, as well as Deputy Mayor Kaz Daltrey's list, as well as my list. So I promise, Jason, you're going to see a lot of marketing of what's available to young people. But like you said, young people want to be outside. And young people leave us and they still have to go home to their respective neighborhoods. And we should do better in ensuring that aesthetically their communities are welcoming, whether it's a park, because we know outdoor space is important. We know the summer is coming, and more importantly, we know young people need somewhere to go.
What about the safety aspect for teens when they're concerned about what other teens are doing?
So the safety aspect also for teens, the city is looking at that from all aspects for teens, adult, all ages. We see the numbers trending down, but safety is really a perception. Regardless of the numbers, the actual feeling of being safe in the city. And that's what we're really focusing on.
Juanita, in terms of having too much time on their hands, a lot of people would say that. What about that point? Do you buy that?
So, listen, young people have friends, right? Whatever they want to label them as today, gang or whatever, they're their friends. And they want to congregate, they want to hang out, they want to be with one another. And sometimes that's in a public space. And like Jason's saying, I'm born and raised in Best Stuyvesant, right? Quincy Street. So I'm very familiar with the change there. That precinct, the 81st precinct, I was a commanding officer there for about 4 years. I watched a change in a particular neighborhood, and I speak about that all the time here. No matter what we have for young people, when they're in those public spaces, whether it's a program, whether it's sports that they're participating in, they still have to leave and go home. And there's nothing like being able to hang out in your own backyard, whether that's a park, whether it's a community center. We have what we call neon spaces, 7 of them throughout the communities, and mostly in the communities where we have a lot of our clients, unfortunately, our underserved communities. And those hours I'm looking at and thinking about changing, because they're not reflective of supporting the young people after school or on the weekends. They're a 9 to 5, closed on weekends, it appears like. And so these are some of the things that we're revamping in our own backyard here in the New York City Department of Probation.
Assistant Deputy Mayor Mona Suazo, in terms of programs that the administration would like to add to what you already have, anything you could tell us about that?
So we have every block count. This is implemented in 2 precincts now with the expansion of phase 2. And this is really to hone into those most violent blocks and have a different approach from the typical approach that we've really been doing. Build that model of let's change the quality of life. Let's look at the conditions. Let's collaborate with all the city agencies, walk those blocks together, do a punch list. And within 30 days, we gather around the table and go item by item. We meet weekly and we see a turnaround, and just a park being cleaned up, a fire hydrant being painted, a sidewalk being fixed, gardening, planting, even going to the schools and seeing what programs they have in those blocks. This is like almost the pilot that started building that model for the every block count, and now doing that expansion to have more precincts to go and include more blocks.
Jason, in terms of with cultural influences, because crime is glorified as entertainment, whether it's TV, whether it's movies, whether it's some of the urban series, whether it's in certain types of music. What impact does that have, or does it have any impact? Do you think on the teens?
I think what we need to understand is that these programs are not long enough. These programs are like band-aids over a bullet hole.
Mhm.
30 days and even 6 months is not long enough to affect the child. Project Restore Bed-Stuy was a year program, and then it had 6 months of aftercare. When I got into that program, I went from a person that didn't have an ID, a bank account, or no job to being a Columbia student and having a 401k. These programs have to be longer. It has to be more extensive. You have to dive into the trauma. We having programs for people that's dealing with who God knows what inside the household, right? It could be one parent, a parent was murdered. It could be domestic violence, things that they can't tell the school because if they tell the school, now ACS is involved, right? Now they're going through these other things. And then when they got an extensive record and they go to these programs like parole, not programs, but go to parole and go to all these other things, all they see is they track record.
What about that, Mona? Any response on that?
Yes. I mean, in addition to the programs, there is also youth safety initiatives. And I'm glad you mentioned earlier the social media and the role that it plays. And Mayor Adams' administration filed a lawsuit against major social media companies to hold them accountable for fueling nationwide youth mental health crisis and also investing in that mental health piece. So we're providing nearly 7,000 teens with free mental health services throughout NYC teen space. We're combating subway surfing. This claimed the lives of 6 teens in 2024 through our education campaign and the use of drones. So we are leveraging technology, the use of drones to identify who's doing the subway surfing, touch base with their parents, let them know what their children are doing, and trying to leverage that as a preventative measure. And again, unfortunately, we lost 6 lives due to that. So social media and these platforms definitely play a role in glorifying such behavior.
The youth that come to you, that come through after they've gotten justice involved, are there any characteristics that they all share or that a lot of them share or circumstances that they're coming from? Can you tell us about that?
So it's pretty interesting that you asked that question, Lisa. Great question, because here what we begin focusing on is what we call the 5 pillars. We look at recidivism, employment, education, mental health, and then whether or not they're living outside of a home, right? In a shelter or homelessness. We're communicating with the parents, but we're seeing that. And with our focus on reducing recidivism, naturally, we need to address those other areas as well. And that is the main focus here now. So we've really shifted in priorities and what we're doing. And when you speak about going into their homes, that's what we're doing. Probation has a lot of access, a lot of funding. If we go somewhere and it's dilapidated, we can pay to have the respective home clean. We're giving them work on the weekends. A lot of our children, it's a program where they come out for 5 hours and work on Saturday. We give them $75, and that takes them through the week, whether they want to go to the movies or do something. It's a lot here that's shifting and that we're doing to change, but really focusing on the family as a whole. We have what we call as mobile portable therapy. They go out and they address the entire family, and they're very responsive. They're in all 5 boroughs because just like Jason was saying, there's a lot that goes on in households that a lot of people don't know about. We have the privilege of going into that home 6 o'clock in the morning to see if it's something happening, that some sort of behavior that we should really be focusing on that may be, conducted by the parents and not the young person, but just to give them a safer environment.
And Jason, a final word, what would you like to see our city and really our country do in terms of how we look at our teens? What would you like to see change?
I want us to stop looking at youth and thinking this is a behavioral problem and start looking at the community as a whole. We have to invest into our youth because our youth is the future. We're investing in all these things and gentrifying neighborhoods, putting all these stuff that costs too much for the people that live there. So now when it's getting taken over by youth because they don't have no parks or no adequate schooling to teach them the things that they need to know, we can't be surprised. We first got to help the youth and give them engaging things to do so that this stuff won't happen.
Assistant Deputy Mayor Mona Suazo, tell us for people that want to access the programs or find out, what is that website they should go to?
That is the DOICD Connect portal. That's Department of Youth and Community Development Programs. And if they don't have access to that, they have phone access, they want to call 311. They have also all the information on all the programs. They can provide the zip code, and all the listing will come up, will be shared with the caller or the parents.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Street Soldiers on Out of Control Teens. You can watch it again and share it on our Fox 5 NY YouTube page and see many episodes on our Fox Local app. Remember, use your mind as your best weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace, love, and justice for all.